Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Money Matters. It is Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're new to Money Matters, welcome to the show. This is a show where we share about anything and everything about money. And most of the times, we have some amazing guest speakers who come and share their true story experiences, in a way, real experiences of how they manage their finances, the struggles they face with it, the mistakes that they have made with regards to their finances, and how we can kind of avoid those as well. And of course, we also talk a lot about entrepreneurship, business, and so many other things, because I think money is something that covers all areas of our lives, and it's important to understand their correlation as well. So if you're new, we hope you continue tuning into our show, and yeah, follow join us in our Telegram community so that you guys can ask any questions if you need, and also of course get updates with regards to the latest episodes as well. And for those of you who are returning back to the show, thank you so much for coming back once again. And today's show is going to be a very quick, simple, direct to the point. Some of our audiences had submitted in your questions with regards to money, and I thought today let's do a quick Q&A episode on money matters. So I think it's important to ask questions with regards to money. There's no such thing as you should be able to Google any answer kind of thing, because I think money is something that is very subjective. We can understand the theories, I think through Googling and reading books and whatnot, but the application of it tends to be very, very different. And I hope through the Q&A with us and Q&A with us and Q&A with in Money Matters, you guys can get a bit more different understanding of how it would apply practically in a way, and not just the theory part of it. So, without further ado, let's get into some of the questions that our audience have submitted. I think the first one was kind of funny, because I think this is something as an accountant, I torture a lot of people on doing this particular thing, which is none other than, is it important to keep receipts? So, if you are someone who's not from a financial background, you may not really see this. Um, when we go out to eat at restaurants, when we are staying at a hotel, where we are, anything we're doing, even if you're fueling up petrol in your car, um, receipts is something that you might receive. Or if you're not asking for it, you may not be receiving it. But it is one of the most, I think, one of the habits that I developed early on with regards to my money management is to actually keep the receipts, especially if I'm spending with cash. So I think previously, back then, most of us were spending by cash. So the receipts were kind of the trace we had to understand what we did with our money. So I used to go back and go like, okay, so I spent 5 ringgit on this parking, and I'd put that down all in my money tracker, so that I understand what has taken place with regards to my finances for the day. But of course, things have changed a little bit now. Most of my transactions are being done online. I'm using my card. I'm using my wallets, e-wallets, and scan and paying and all those kind of stuff. And the trace is in my online banking system. So most of the time, I do not actually require the physical receipts to go back and trace. And of course, some of them even provide the emailing of receipts function, so it doesn't even require me to ask them for the receipt. It's coming to my email or my directly, and I can I keep a record of it in my email as well. So times have changed, and we do not necessarily have to follow exactly that. But if you're someone who is aspiring to be a business owner, who's aspiring to kind of have proper understanding, I mean, proper records for your business, then I would highly recommend getting started on this particular habit as soon as possible, because for businesses, it's very important for you to maintain records. You need receipts and invoices to kind of qualify as a proper record. So it's good to have that habit, no matter how small or tiny that expense is. Good to develop that habit of keeping the receipt, and of course going back and like storing it appropriately, and managing your finances with that. But if you're someone who's just gonna have a full-time job, that's not really your thing. You don't spend by cash, you're using e-wallets and online bankings most of the time, and you kind of know what you're doing, and you're tracking your finances regularly, you don't need your receipts in a way to manage it, to kind of keep track of things. One of the things that I have started doing is, some places do give me receipts, and immediately I take a photo of it, put it in my gallery, and then the receipt is gone, because half the time I lose my receipts almost immediately. So to kind of avoid the awkward scenario of losing my receipts, the moment I receive it, I'm taking a photo of it and storing it in my phone before it mysteriously disappears, because that's what always happens. So hopefully this helps. It is important to keep it, especially if you're a business owner or an aspiring business owner. But if not, there are many other ways for you to manage this situation so that you can keep proper track of your finances. So yeah, thank you so much for submitting that question. I think most people would be wondering this, especially if you're someone young who's just starting out and you see everybody keeping their receipts. You're like, why are you doing this? So hopefully this kind of like sheds a light on how it works. So before we go on to our next question, let's take a short break. That's right. Money Matters is available for sale. You can get an e-copy, you can get a physical copy. Just get in touch with us on our Money Matters Instagram page. Link will be in description, and we'll send a copy right over to you. So the next question that we have, which I think is also very interesting, because I think that's personally something I have struggled with at times, and I think many people would struggle with, especially if you're not um, like a salaried person. You are not someone who's getting a fixed salary. You're an entrepreneur or a freelancer. I think this would be something that is a bit more of a concern for you, which is, I have my main money goal, but I also break it down to monthly targets. Which should I focus on? Um, so this is very interesting, because I think most of us have a longer term goal. Like even me personally, I have a longer term goal with regards to my finances. And then because the longer term goal is so big, and sometimes it's a bit inconceivable for me to understand how would I achieve it. So when we set goals like that, and our mind is not yet ready to kind of stretch all the way to that limit, we might get too scared to focus on it. So hence why I think most of the people that I work with, what they do is kind of like set targets to build up to the bigger goal that you have. But it's important to keep in mind that these are just steps to reach the bigger target. Because if you get too kind of like caught up with the fact that you need to just reach this target and that's all there is to life, you may think and act differently, compared to if you understand that this first step is just one step towards the next 100 steps that you have for your main goal. So if you have that understanding and that awareness, then you may choose to take certain actions differently. Because if not, it's going to be a very short term approach towards your goals, uh, and you may not make the right steps. For example, if let's say your current bigger goal is an amount that you can't understand. So you have decided, like, okay, I'll have monthly target 1, monthly target 2, monthly target 3, all the way up to 10. Now monthly target 1 could just be, if you're someone who's starting out, like, oh, I just need 2,500 ringgit income monthly so that I can take care of my expenses when it comes up. Because I'm single. I'm not taking care of anybody. I do not have any dependents. I do not have any big expenses. This is more than enough for me to kind of take care of my monthly and yearly expenses per month. So let's say you make that decision. But if you do not keep in mind that this is just step one to all the other steps, you may just go like, you know what, I'm just going to pick up a part-time job that can pay me this amount, or I'm just going to like go for like delivery, grab or whatnot. I'm not sure how much you can earn from it in a way, but you may make some decisions that would lead to just achieving this current target rather than helping you to achieve the longer term target. So you need to take decisions that would help you. For example, it could be start a business. It could be work towards your ideal job in the corporate ladder. But if those are the bigger targets that you have, then you need to start the steps right away, and you need to work towards becoming an entrepreneur, work towards climbing the corporate ladder. And that may not necessarily help you reach the first target that you have fast, but if you take the right steps, you will be in a very steady progress towards the bigger goal. So I think that's one thing that a lot of young people struggle with. How do I balance my current need and wants, and my future needs and wants in a way, and how do I kind of balance that out. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's say you have already decided, okay, so now I'm having this first goal in my business, because longer term I want to run a business which is for, which has like this many number of employees. We provide services in this many countries. That's the bigger goal. But I have to start the business now, and I'm gonna start providing my services. My first target is very simple. I just want like 10 clients to make this happen, who pay me a retainer of a certain amount every month. It's a very understandable target. It's like, okay, 10 clients who pay me this amount. That's it, right? So when you have that, and then I think it's very important to really drill down and focus on it and take action towards it. So for me personally, in my experiences, that has always been things like, for example, workshops, or if I'm running an initiative and I have like the first target of funds that I need to reach for the initiative, the second target, the third target, and then you work towards reaching that target. So I personally have worked on many event organizing. So we have organized the comedy show, we have organized the documentary premiere, and many other events throughout my life, conferences and whatnot. So when we have a longer term target, we have broken it down to shorter targets. The moment we have the first one, we work on it diligently to reach it as soon as possible. So what I mean by that is, it's not to go out of my way and get another part-time job and then channel the money here, but to work on that thing itself. So for example, if it's fundraising to run this charity show, then I would work on setting as many appointments as I can. I would work on connecting to all the people that I know, who I have in my network, who'd be able to connect me to the right people to give the funding. And I take the actions consistently to be able to reach the goal. So if you're an entrepreneur, that could mean cold calling clients. It could mean reaching out to your existing clients and going like, hey, can you connect me to somebody who would need my services? And doing that very diligently, consistently, until you reach it. And not kind of getting distracted from that goal that you've set. And I think most people think it takes a long time to reach these goals, because we have not touched that limit yet, especially if you're someone who just set the first goal and you've never reached a goal before. It can be daunting, it will feel like it's going to take forever, but the truth is, it can be done. In fact, it can be done very fast. I think many people have done it fast. So what you do need to do is just take the right actions, go back to your mentors if you need to kind of recalibrate and focus back on your goals, and just work on it until you hit it. Because the moment you hit the first one, hitting the second one is going to be exciting. Like one of the things that I worked on is my emergency funds, building up my emergency, and now I call it the opportunity funds. So when I first had to hit the 3 month mark of emergency funds, it was impossible. Like it felt like I was doing it forever. But after I hit the 3 month mark, after that, getting another 3 more months, another 3 more months, another 3 more months in was fun and not that daunting anymore. So similarly, goals can also be approached in that way. So that's what I would say, kind of, for the person who asked. I have my main money goal. Should I break it down? And what should I focus on? So before we go on to our next question, let's take another short break. Perfect. So the third question is something that I think it's a very important question to ask, which is, people say you will achieve your money goal when you're ready to handle it. How do I prepare myself? Um, this is very, very interesting, because I think um, we may think the preparing yourself to achieve a goal is something that you have a very passive involvement in. So let me break it down for you guys. I think there's two ways you can look at this. Um, you are someone who has, let's say, a certain amount of income right now. Let's just say you earn 4,000 ringgit per month, and the 4,000 ringgit per month is there to take care of your needs and then your wants, and if more as well. If you do not learn how to manage that 4,000, when you will not be able to handle a higher amount, and hence if it does come to you, you will highly likely make many mistakes that will bring you back down to earning 4,000 ringgit. And I think many people have experienced this, people who come from, let's say, lower income, and then they strike a lottery for the first time. It's impossible for you to manage it. I think you don't even need to be low income. If I strike a lottery right now, I think it would be so hard for me to fathom it and understand it and manage my money in a very sane manner, because it's something that, like, a huge jump that you have not been able to handle. So that doesn't mean that the money won't come to you. There are many people who receive these kind of opportunities and all that. So, but you would make mistakes which kind of bring you back down to the state you were in earlier. So, like, for example, I had a point in time where I was building up my income very steadily, but I had barely had any important expenses. I just had like my own food and my own vehicle, and more than enough to kind of support myself and probably save a lot more. But because I did not have the understanding, and also I did not take the right steps, I pretty much spent the whole money. I did not save at all. This was at the beginning stages of my career. I was struggling, like I just did not save it because I had more than enough money every month, so nothing much to worry about. And then came a point in time where I was suddenly faced with a downfall in my finances. Like, okay, something went wrong. You don't have this income anymore. Or this particular thing has stopped coming in. What do you do now? So I was not prepared. Like, I was not ready to handle that situation. If I had saved plenty earlier when I did have the money, I would have been able to handle this and come back stronger. But because I did not, I went into a much lower financial state, and then I had to build myself back up again. So what you need to understand is, you may achieve temporary success when it comes to finances. So you may work towards your finances. There's no such thing as you will only get money when you're ready for it, because you can get money if you work towards it and ask for it. I think the universe will kind of give it to you. But whether you'll be able to manage it well and achieve the goals that you have for it is a different question. You might squander it and go back to where you were very, very quickly. And I think that's personally something I experienced. So I think what I would then think about is, regardless of whether I'll get this or not, preparing myself in two ways. One, preparing myself to manage how I spend money. Even if I'm receiving 100 ringgit, 1000 ringgit, 10,000 ringgit, regardless of what I'm receiving, I need to be very careful with regards to how I spend. I need to think about the longer term, the shorter term, the needs, the wants, what needs to be taken care of first. The usual money principles that I need to run through, I make sure I make those decisions correctly, so that regardless of whether I'm getting 10,000 or 1,000 or 100,000, I'm able to kind of make a wise decision against that. And I think, how do you prepare yourself for that? Very simple. You practice day in, day out with your current level of finances. If you're someone who's just earning 1,000 ringgit per month, it is not enough for you to take care of your expenses. Learn how to manage within the 1,000, so that when you go to 2,000, you're prepared to handle it. You are not going to immediately jump all the way to, like, oh, all right, I'm going to spend my money away with 2,000. No. If you already have a habit of saving when you earn 1,000, and you go to 2,000, you're still going to save. Probably you're going to save a little bit more, because now instead of out of 10% out of 1,000, you're going to save 10% out of 2,000, and kind of build that up as you go. So the only way you can prepare yourself is with what you have, manage it, so that when you get more, you're ready to manage it. But the other important aspect of preparing yourself, which I think not many people talk about, is preparing yourself to earn more. And that means learning how to earn. And I think personally, this is something I struggle with, and I think many people struggle with. We uh, we have seen probably most of the people in our lives work in a job. So it's a fixed job. The moment you get the job, you get a fixed salary, and you just work in that salary. And you hope that you get a bonus at the end of the year. If you do, good for you. If you get a raise, good for you. Continue on. So you're kind of on almost at a mercy of another person's decision with regards to how your income will progress. But I think we have come in an era where even young people, anyone can earn income in many, many different ways. When we are in this era, it's not a question of how much money you can make, it's how much money you're willing to go and work for and make. And I think that's where, as much as you learn how to manage your expenses, you need to learn how to earn. And that means, let's say you're currently earning 1000 ringgit and that is not enough for you, you're barely saving, you're struggling. That would mean you need to improve your mindset, you need to take the right focused actions, you need to learn how to communicate with people, you need to learn how to do marketing, you need to learn how to do all of these things to increase your income to 2000 or 3000 or 5000 or whatever amount that you aspire towards. So that is another very important aspect of preparing yourself to achieve your money goal. You need to learn how to earn a bit more, a bit more, a bit more. And then, of course, it will kind of correlate to the next step, which is learn how to manage a little bit more that you have earned, and not getting ahead of, I need to immediately buy this thing that I've always wanted to buy. It's not just about that. You need to learn how to save, you need to learn how to invest, and all the other things that comes with finances. So learn how to earn, and then also manage what you have. If you can balance these two, you will achieve your money goal. So don't just prepare yourself to sit by saying, "Oh, I only earn 1000. I gotta just learn how to manage within this so that I'm ready when the for the money to come." No, you need to be ready in the sense that you need to be the kind of person who can attract that kind of money. That means taking the right actions, saying the right words, focusing on the goal to kind of attract that income to you, and working on your business or your passion or your job so that you attract that to you. So yeah, that's the three questions that our audience had submitted. Thank you so much, guys, for kind of sharing these questions. Before we head off for the show, I will do a quick sharing on a recent meeting that I had with a potential client of mine with regards to financial management and how we manage that. So before we go into that, short break. So, okay, here's what happened. So recently, I met a potential money management coaching client, and we were discussing about all things with regards to where do you get started with regards to money. So I thought today's Q&A session we could do a quick refresher on some of the principles that we talk about in money management. I think as much as I love talking to all the amazing guest speakers that we have on our show, I am personally very passionate about money management and all of these things. So once in a while, when I get the opportunity to share my 2 cents worth, I'm more than on board to do that. So here's some of the things that came to my mind when I was having the conversation with the person in the meeting call that I had. And I think the first one is, recently I've been having quite a lot of people, and even myself included, struggling with tracking our expenses. So if you guys have watched any previous Money Matters episodes, you will know I am a huge fan of tracking and managing my finances through like an app or an Excel sheet or whichever works for you. You could be a piece of paper that you wish to write it on. Perfectly fine as well. So I've always been a fan of tracking because I like to say that you need to know what's happening in order to diagnose the disease and cure the disease. So you can't do like cure a disease without doing the medical checkups and all those kind of stuff. So similarly in finance, you need to keep track of what you earn, what you spend, what you have, what you owe, and use that to kind of figure out what is going right, what is going wrong, what do I do next. So it is a tedious process. It's not fun at all. I think most of us will struggle keying in because it's not a fun experience, especially if you're someone who is struggling with expense management. So if you're already overspending, if you already know that your finances is not in a good situation, the last thing you want to do is sit down at a table and key in and look at it, because it's going to be a very, very daunting task. So this is an important step, and it's important to be creative in kind of like overcoming the block that you may have with this. So many times the people who begin working with me, they will be like, okay, they're excited because somebody else is coming in and looking at their finances, but that would only last for a short period of time. You might watch a YouTube video on how some people keep track of the expenses, and you go like, wow, this is amazing, I'm going to do that. You will do that for a few days, and then kind of like the excitement wears off, so you kind of stop doing it. So this is where it's important to probably have a buddy to work on it together with. That's usually helpful, because you have a friend, it kind of makes it more tolerable and manageable to handle. But you got to be careful on who's the friend that you're kind of getting in to do this. It doesn't have to be a friend who sits down and look at your finances, but it's just somebody who sits with you, and they are doing their own finances and you're doing your own. More than good enough to make progress towards your finance goals. So find creative ways. I've seen people who do that. I've seen people like, oh, my problem is procrastination, I just forget about it the moment I move on from that expense, so I do it immediately. So I have had seen people who, the moment they spend on something, they're opening their money app and keying it in, which is not something that works for me, but it works for them. So good for them. Some of them like this buddy system, and they do that with their friends. They have they just meet up once a week and they key in. Works for them. Brilliant, go ahead. So you need to be creative with regards to how you can get this to work for you. Like, one of the things that I do is I have kind of made it into like a specific habit to ensure the day I get my salary, uh, especially the fixed income that I have, because there's also the not so fixed income. So pick one fixed income day. I picked that particular day and decided when that money comes in, I'm going to sit down and just make sure all my finances are up to date. And even if I have missed out the previous weeks, that particular time when I'm paying out my rental and all those other things that I need to do, I'm keeping track of my finance and I'm updating all the way up to that particular day, so that I know what's going on. So it's something small that I developed, but I kept working on this particular habit for the past many years, that it has almost become a thing of its own. Like, I don't even need to think about it. It just happens on its own the moment my salary comes in a way. I'm already keying in what are the things that has happened in the week, and I'm also making the payments. So pairing it with another habit that you already have is very, very helpful with regards to retaining this. So get your expenses under control. I think that's the first thing anybody can do with regards to financial management. You got to know what's happening with regards to your money, so tracking. And two, if you are overspending, that's the first thing you got to address. How do you bring it back under control? Because unless you have a little bit of surplus in your income to save, you're going to have a bit of trouble making progress towards your other financial goals. So get your expenses under control. And this could mean by tracking, you see, hey, you're spending a lot on eating out. Okay, then coming up with creative solutions to reduce that. Or it could be not eating out at all, because you're someone who just eats at home every day, but your fuel toll and parking expenses is gone through the roof. It's way beyond what you thought it was, because you're the kind of person who offers people rides. This is exactly what happened to me a few years ago. I like to offer people ride back home. So like, if they don't have transport, I'll be like, I'll drop you back. And I did this to a lot of people almost all the time. So that meant my transportation expenses were way higher than what I thought it was going to be, because I kept going and offering people rides. So when I kind of identified that, went like, okay, this is an interesting problem. It's not necessarily my expenses in a way. So what I need to do is kind of limit how often I offer people rides. So not every day, not every week, maybe certain times or few times in a month I can do that, but that's it. Other than that, just focus on driving or carpool with other people, so that then you can give more rides to other people. Kind of find different ways to manage that solution. Of course, the ultimate solution that I found out was keep to online meetings, and I reduced my driving a lot, and that brought down my expenses. But it is not necessarily a good solution at this point in time. So find a way that works for you with regards to that. So track, know what's going on. Two, get your expenses under control. Three, increase your income, because most problems can be solved by increasing our income. But I think today we had plenty of questions where people shared about breaking down their targets. How do you achieve your goal? How do you prepare yourself? All of this relates to increasing your income. So I hope you guys take away something from that particular sharing, and kind of apply it so that you can increase your income. So these are three things that you can get started, no matter who you are. You could be a student, who's just getting allowance monthly. You could be a young adult who's just entering the workforce. You could be anybody. And these three things is absolutely going to be important for you. Of course, there's a lot of other things to look at when it comes to financial management. And I hope in the next Money Matters Q&A episode, we can address some of your questions with regards to that. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I really had a great time answering your questions. I look forward to more questions from the audience. You can drop it off in the chat box if you have any questions now, and we'll address that in the next Q&A session. If not, join our Telegram community, and when you do have any questions randomly coming up in your mind, you can share it with us in the group as well. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy managing your money, and we'll see you at the next episode.